Chapter 21. The Freedom Flotilla Escalating Our Efforts, Turning Concepts into Reality. By Hugh Wader Araf. After Israel violently intercepted our last 3 attempts to reach Gaza by sea, we decided we needed a change of strategy. Some of our supporters began questioning the utility of continuing to send boats to Gaza, but for us, giving up was not an option. For one, the violence perpetrated against Palestinians on a daily basis in Gaza, and indeed throughout the occupied Palestinian territory, is greater than what we endured on the boats. Furthermore, we refuse to give in to the notion that military might and violence is stronger than the principles and rights we are fighting for. But to overcome Israel's apparent determination to put an end to our efforts, we had to make the cost of stopping our boats much bigger for Israel. Therefore, instead of sending one small boat with a few dozen people and a symbolic amount of supplies to Gaza, we would need to send a flotilla. From July 2009 to May 2010, we set to work on organizing this flotilla. We reissued our call for governments and international organizations to join us. We wrote letters to heads of state, particularly those states that pledge money to rebuild Gaza after Operation Cast Lead. In March 2009, donor countries pledged over $4.2 billion to rebuild Gaza, yet, according to a press release issued by UNRWA, by mid-August 2009, not one penny of this money had reached Gaza due to Israel's closure. Many of the governments responded, but only to reiterate their standard statements of concern for the welfare of Palestinians in Gaza. They did not commit to do anything about the Israeli policy that was decimating that welfare. We also set out to build grassroots support and involvement around the world. From Chile to South Africa, India to the United States, we met with groups, unions, parliamentarians, journalists, and other individuals to support our non-violent direct action efforts to end Israel's strangulation of Gaza. Because we were still a small group of activists, without a country, or even a big organization behind us, we aimed for a modest flotilla of 3 vessels, 1 cargo ship and 2 accompanying passenger boats, with many members of parliament, other high-profile people, and media on board. We estimated that we would need at least €700,000 to make this happen. At the invitation of former Malaysian Prime Minister Tun Mahathir Mohamad, we went to Malaysia. The First Lady of Malaysia, Datin Sri Rosmah, pledged the money for a cargo ship, but this was only half of what we needed. We spent months trying to raise the rest. My husband Adam and I went to the Gulf. Many expressed verbal support for our efforts, but the financial support was not as forthcoming as we hoped and needed. People had doubts about the utility of what we were doing, and preferred to channel their money toward humanitarian efforts. Although it is certainly understandable that one might prefer to help build a hospital, support an orphan, or send needed food and medicine to Palestine, if that's where you invest 100% of your efforts without addressing the policies that leave Palestinians in need of this aid, you will be supporting them for the rest of their lives, their children's lives too. I argued. We had originally hoped to sail by the end of the summer 2009, but we couldn't do it. We kept pushing the date back, September, October, November, January, but we still could not get the funds we needed to pull off the mission. In January, our colleague Fathi Jayawadi informed us that Insani Yardım Vakfi, IHH, a large Turkish human rights and humanitarian relief foundation that operates in dozens of countries around the world, pledged 5 boats to the flotilla. Fathi had worked on this initiative for months, holding meetings with the officers of IHH, before he was finally able to bring them on board. This represented a significant development, not only because of the number of boats added to the flotilla, but because a well-established humanitarian relief organization undertook to join us in a direct action challenge to Israel's illegal closure policy. Other relief organizations and NGOs expressed verbal support for our efforts, but cited numerous restrictions that prevented them from joining us. Over the next couple of months a few more groups joined the effort. In Sweden, an initiative called Ship to Gaza had been underway for approximately a year. there, activists were raising money to sail to Gaza, stopping at various European ports to load donated cargo and garner support along the way. They were modeling this effort after Ship to Bosnia, a similar effort undertaken by Swedish human rights activists in 1995. Although the Swedish group had not reached their financial goal, and our effort was different than what they were planning, they decided to commit their resources to the flotilla. Our Greek comrades from the maiden voyage had formed a group called Ship to Gaza, Greece, and sought to join. The fact that Greeks and Turks, people with their own history of animosity toward each other, were going to work together for the sake of Palestine had strong political significance for both groups and underscored the power of our mission. The Swedish and Greek teams pooled their resources to buy a cargo ship. Then, the European campaign to end the siege of Gaza, a group that we had worked with before on our second and third voyages to Gaza, pledged a ship and joined. On the 3rd of April 2010, at a meeting in Istanbul, we announced the coalition to break the blockade on Gaza and our plans to launch a flotilla to Gaza later in the spring. As we were building this coalition, we were also busy readying our own vessels. On the 30th of March 2010, the Free Gaza movement purchased a 1,200-ton cargo ship at an auction in Dundalk, Ireland. The vessel had been impounded a year earlier following an inspection by the International Transport Federation, ITF, which found that its owners had exploited its Lithuanian crew members, failed to pay their wages, and subjected them to humiliating treatment. And so a vessel, which had been used to subject workers to modern-day slavery, would now be used to promote human rights for the people of Palestine. We renamed the vessel, the Rachel Corrie, after the American peace activist killed by an Israeli bulldozer in 2003. In addition, we purchased two small yachts, the Challenger 1, Al Samad, Arabic for steadfastness, and the Challenger 2, Al Amal, Arabic for hope, and were preparing the Free Gaza boat from our first mission to also sail, so we could donate her to fishermen in Gaza. Instead of acquiring 5 ships, IHH invested in one large vessel. A 1,060-person passenger ferry called the Mavi Marmara. The European campaign to end the siege of Gaza purchased a military vessel converted into a passenger ferry called the Sfindoni, renamed 8000, for the over 8,000 Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli jails. Donations from people in Kuwait and Algeria allowed IHH to purchase 2 cargo ships, Gaza and Afan, renamed Gaz II. And the Greek/Swedish cargo ship, Eleftheri Misargius, renamed Free Mediterranean, brought the number of vessels in our planned flotilla to 9. Even though the ship had a capacity of 1060 persons, for the sake of comfort, we decided to put only half that number of people on it. Stress and tensions were high as we scrambled to overcome last-minute obstacles to the launch of the flotilla. But our spirits were even higher. Israeli leaders, including Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman, Defense Minister Ehud Barak, and their deputies threatened Israel would use all necessary force to stop us from reaching Gaza. While we did not underestimate the violence they could use against us, we believed we were protected by the public and high-profile nature of our action, by all of the journalists we had on board the ships, and by the fact that Israeli leaders knew the Freedom Flotilla was a purely civilian effort. Furthermore, our cargo would be inspected by officials at each of the ports we departed from, confirming that we did not constitute any kind of threat to Israel's security. We did, however, threaten the legitimacy of Israel's closure on Gaza, as well as its ongoing abuses of the Palestinian people under the pretext of security. Undoubtedly, the massive nature of our global, grassroots, direct action also constituted a threat to Israel's entire colonial apartheid project. Our ships departed from Ireland, Greece, and Turkey to meet at a predetermined point in the Mediterranean Sea. On the 30th of May 2010, the Freedom Flotilla began the final leg of its journey to the besieged Gaza Strip with over 700 people from 36 countries on board 7 vessels, 10,000 tons of aid, and millions of volunteers and supporters around the world watching. Due to mechanical troubles, which we suspect was a result of sabotage, the Challenger 2 was unable to continue as part of the flotilla. Also, Cyprus succumbed to Israel's diplomatic pressure and did not allow us to take the Free Gaza out of port. The Rachel Corrie, although part of the flotilla, experienced delays, which we believe was a result of attempted sabotage that put it a few days behind the other 6 vessels. Israel's intimidation tactics won't stop us. First ship sets sail for Gaza. By Free Gaza Team. London, the 14th of May 2010, at 22:45 local time tonight, the Rachel Corrie, a 1,200-ton cargo ship, part of the 8-vessel Freedom Flotilla, set sail from Ireland on its way to the Mediterranean Sea. There, ships from Turkey and Greece will join her, then sail to Gaza. This past week reports from Israel have indicated that the Israeli authorities will not allow the Freedom Flotilla to reach Gaza with its cargo of much-needed reconstruction material, medical equipment, and school supplies. According to Israeli news sources, clear orders have been issued to prevent the ships from reaching Gaza, even if this necessitates military violence. The Free Gaza movement, which has launched 8 other sea missions to Gaza, confirms that Israel has tried these kinds of threats and intimidation tactics before, in order to try to stop the missions before they start. They have not deterred us before, and will not deter us now, said one of the organizers. Shipped to Gaza, Sweden, a Freedom Flotilla coalition partner, together with parliamentarian Mehmet Kaplan, Green Party, yesterday asked for an audience with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden, Carl Bildt, to discuss what measures the Swedish government and the European Union will take to protect the Freedom Flotilla's peaceful humanitarian voyage. Earlier this week during a meeting with the European Campaign to End the Siege on Gaza, another coalition partner, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressed his support for breaking the oppressive siege on the Gaza Strip, which is at the top of Turkey's list of priorities. Coalition partners, shipped to Gaza, Greece and the Turkish relief organization IHH, stressed that the ships, passengers, and cargo will be checked at each port of departure, making it clear that we constitute no security threat to Israel. Israel's threats to attack unarmed civilians aboard vessels carrying reconstruction aid are outrageous and indicative of the cruel and violent nature of Israel's policies toward Gaza. The Freedom Flotilla is acting in line with universal principles of human rights and justice, in defying a blockade identified as illegal by the UN and other humanitarian organizations. Palestinians in Gaza have a right to the thousands of basic supplies that Israel bans from entering, including cement and school books, as well as a right to access the outside world. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition calls on all signatories to the 4th Geneva Conventions to pressure Israel to adhere to its obligations under international humanitarian law, to end the lethal blockade on Gaza, and to refrain from attacking this peaceful convoy. Treat our passengers and cargo with respect, says Senator Mark Deary. Dublin, May 21, 2010. The Free Gaza movement welcomes statements by the Irish government to ensure the safety of the passengers and cargo currently making their way to the besieged Gaza Strip. His Excellency Mr. Briefn O'Reilly, Irish ambassador in Tel Aviv, traveled to the Israeli Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem this week to ensure a peaceful outcome which will enable the safe delivery of these humanitarian supplies. The Free Gaza movement commends the Irish government for showing true international leadership regarding the illegal siege of Gaza, and is calling for other governments to follow suit. The 9-ship-strong flotilla, carrying more than 10,000 tons of medical, reconstruction and educational goods, has only been made possible by the actions and donations of citizens from more than 60 countries. A major donation was received from Malaysia, part of which was used to purchase and outfit the humanitarian cargo ship, the Rachel Corrie. For further information about the Malaysian contribution, visit www.counterpunch.org weblink. On Wednesday, Green Party spokesperson for Foreign Affairs and Defense, Senator Mark Deary, who has personally inspected the cargo on board the Rachel Corrie, echoed the ambassador's call stating, Irish passport holders must be treated respectfully and be allowed complete their mission. It is the least we should be insisting on, given the gross abuse of Irish passports by Israeli agents in recent times. Senator Deary, who has recently replaced Minister Siren Kafus-Bekesbison, was referring to Mossad's use of 5 bogus Irish passports when a Hamas official was assassinated in Dubai earlier this year. Israel has yet to face sanctions from the Irish government for this crime.